Okay. Hi. Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Evil Ed 123 here to talk about my opinion on the upcoming It sequel, It Chapter 2, which is set to come out September 6th. Um, Now, this is the follow up to the It movie from 2017. Now, this is something that has been anticipated, it's been talked about, and there's been rumors as to who's going to play the adult counterparts to the child actors from the last movie, and now it's confirmed. They've shown who is playing who, and the cast looks great. The just released the final trailer. They released the teaser trailer a month back, I believe, or a couple weeks back, and now they released the final trailer. Now, this is marketing I think is very clever and actually done correctly. They don't want to show too much of the movie because they don't want to give away, the whole entire thing, which I think is very smart on their part. I mean, take a look at the Pet Cemetery movie. They showed way too much of the movie, and that ended up disappointing a lot of people. So with this new It movie, it's going to be vast. It's going to be different from the novel, but it's also going to be a little more true to the novel. It's one of those things where it's a give and take. The TV not miniseries, sorry, but the original movie from the 90s was a more faithful adaptation to an extent. They did have to change a lot because it was a TV miniseries. It was made for TV at the time, so there was stuff that they couldn't obviously add in or have in there, and there's things that they had to change. That happens with any adaptation of any book, short story, um, stage production, musical. That happens with a lot of adaptations. This one is set, I believe, 27 years after the first movie. Since the first movie was set in the 80s, this one is set, as we can assume, it's going to be present day. And it looks like it's going to play into the elements that were in the original story, dealing with childhood trauma of the Losers Club, now coming back, with the exception of Ben, who remembers everything. Now, the others, they completely forgot about. It's like something they blocked out of their mind. That was something that was always involved in the books and in the miniseries, that it played on childhood trauma. And when they return, it's like the memories start to flood back. I take, for example, I believe the main who lost his brother, he had a stutter as a kid growing up. He had a stutter when he was a kid, and then when he became an adult, he lost the stutter, but as soon as he starts to remember Pennywise and remember the events, the stutter comes back. So so I think it's going to be a pretty interesting idea, and the trailers show that they're holding no punches. It looks like it's going to be way more gruesome than the last movie, and Pennywise looks just as creepy as ever. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with this one, the changes that they're going to implement, and what they're going to have that was from the original novel. Now, I know when they did the mini series, they left out the leper. In this new movie, or in the last movie, they brought back in the leper. They brought back in a lot of the elements that were missing from the book into this one, while at the same time they changed a lot of things from it. For example, in the book, when it focuses on them as kids, it's set in the 1950s, whereas in the movie, it's set in the 80s. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted to show, whenever they go into the present day, that the adult counterparts and kid counterparts, so that way you buy into, like, okay, that kid can turn into, Professor Xavier, or you can see, them, growing up like that, or you can see, it's like, okay, I can see them, becoming that adult. So it's one of those things where I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. It looks like it's going to go maybe even darker than the last movie. And this was a thing that I was always hesitant about when it comes to the It story. And this happened in the miniseries too, where I felt like it was so intimidating and so crazy when it was them as kids fighting this monster. But when they have to go back as adults and fight the monster again, that to me is where the story kind of lost steam. It lost. It's like it lost momentum to me, at least, because I feel like the danger was there when they were kids. When they were kids, the danger is heightened. It's kids that have to do something that no kid should do, so the danger is prominent. It's like bam, 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 bam. It's the intensity is up. But in this one, when it's them as, but then when it turns to them as adults, I feel like the intensity is now down. But this is one of the things I actually like in the trailer. They show it's like, oh no, the intensity is now turned up a notch, which I love. I love that they're like, hey, we're going to show that Pennywise is even more deadly than before. And there's a lot of cool sequences from the trailer, like the Hall of Mirrors from the Funhouse at the carnival. There's a lot of cool shots, and we're actually going to get a little bit of Pennywise's backstory in this one, which was something that was left out from the first movie, which was led to the deleted scenes and some scenes that were cut out that even they considered too much for the theatrical cut, which you can see on DVD now. So it's an interesting approach. I think this new movie is going to, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be very solid. The acting, from what I can gather in the trailers, look pretty solid. I feel like I'm using the word solid a lot, but it looks like that they cast the right people. The actors are going to be great, and I believe it's the same director who directed the last movie. He's back and directing this one, and the writers are the same. So it's like they have everything set up perfectly. I think when they were doing the first movie, they even said that they already had in mind what they wanted to do with the second chapter. So it's just a matter of time when the movie comes out to see how it does. I'm curious as to hear what you guys think about this. Are you looking forward to the new It movie? If so, what do you think they're going to do to bring the movie up a level or two? Because I feel like they're not going to hold back any punches. Because even the first movie, they were pretty ballsy in a lot of aspects to. For example, when I remember seeing it in theaters, because this was in the book, and the book of how Georgie died was pretty gruesome, and I thought, okay, there's no way they're going to do that, because they didn't even do that in the miniseries, that they're going to do that. But then, as soon as we saw the movie, I'm like, oh, they actually even made it more intense, and they actually did go that level, which is something that most movies back then were afraid to do. And that's the thing, when I feel like you're doing a horror movie, you have to go that level. You go that level of like, hey, look, we want to be memorable. We want to show that we're not afraid to go there. And the whole thing is, if you do it correctly, then audiences are going to appreciate it and be like, hey, you did something different. You did something I'm not used to seeing. Keep going. Let's continue this ride. And that's how I feel about the new It movie. I feel like this second chapter is actually going to make me enjoy seeing how the adults are going to react to it, because that was the thing I mentioned before, that I always felt like the movie kind of suffered, or the original miniseries suffered, is when it was them as adults. And it's nothing against the actors like John Ritter or any of the other actors that were in there. They did fine. It was just one of those deals where it felt like the scares were lessened. It's like they put a lot of time and effort into focusing on them as kids, which is fine, because that's what made the movie great, when it focused on them as kids, fighting the monster, and their own personal fears having to overcome. It's like they put all their time and effort into those segments. But then when it came to them doing the adult segments, it just became like, yeah, we don't care. Let's get to the ending. And even Tim Curry said he felt that the ending was lackluster. That he turns into a giant spider at the end. Like, they don't even get to fight Pennywise in his clown form. They don't even get to fight him in his clown form. And that's something I actually liked in this new one, or in the 2017. The first part of the movie, as they're fighting him, he slowly kind of shows his true form of the spider legs and all that, and the whole he. So I would like to see. This is. I feel like if they fight Pennywise, he's still in his clown form, and right when they think he's dead, he finally turns into his full-fledged form, like who he truly is. Like, sheds the clown, I guess, costume in a way, and then he's that giant creature. To me, I think that that will be better received, at least in my mind, because then it's like, okay, we get to see him fight Pennywise in his clown form, and then we get to see him in his true form, like Super Saiyan mode. That's how I feel. That's why I hope it's going to happen in this one. And one of the things I know is going to be tough, because it was something that was tough to watch in the original miniseries, is Richie and Eddie. We're always close buds. They were close. They were close. Richie always saw Eddie as like his brother, the brother he never had, and I know this is going to be something I'm pretty sure they're going to explore and go that extra mile. And this one is, um, what's going to happen with Eddie and how that's going to impact Richie. And because they show a little bit in the trailer of Richie looking hurt, looking distraught, looking like he just broke down, and I feel like that's going to be a very emotional scene. If from the book, if you guys have read the book. So I'm looking forward to that. I think this is one of the Stephen King films I'm looking forward to more than I did Pet Sematary. Because even when I saw the trailers for Pet Sematary, I wasn't interested. I always loved the original Pet Sematary. I even, as bad as it is, I love the Pet Sematary 2 with Edward Furlong. As terrible as that movie was, there's something enjoyable about it. And I read Mary Lambert originally wanted to have the story focus on Ellie Creed, as a teenager, and her trying to figure out what happened to her family, and her trying to deal with her powers. The plot sounded interesting. It sounded really good, but then the executives, the network executives or producers felt like, no one's going to want to see a girl as the lead. Let's get somebody popular. The kid from Terminator 2. Terminator 2 did great. Have him as the lead. So she had to change the whole story, and she wasn't too happy about it. She wasn't too thrilled. And even Stephen King disowns Pet Sematary 2 as just a terrible film. And Stephen King, I remember he gave great reviews and great praise for the first part of the new It movie. So I have no doubt he's going to give great praise and reviews to this one. And it's all just a matter of when the film comes out. I'll have my full thoughts about how I felt about the sequel and how it matches up. Because the thing is, this is the tricky thing when you do a sequel, that's released a couple years after the first one. And sometimes it's like you really love the first movie, and then the sequel doesn't really get a lot of love and attention because it's like, well, you waited too long. And I know I just did this whole thing about my when I talked about my thoughts on the Halloween sequels on the last live stream. If you guys didn't get to catch that, I'll have the link to it down below. About having movies coming out within the following year. It's one of those things where I feel like if you can play your cards correctly and time it just right, the movies will turn out great. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. So that's my thought on the new It Chapter 2. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to go see it in cinemas or in theaters because I saw the last one in theaters when it came out. So this one's going to be pretty interesting to see, I think. There's something on my finger, sorry. And we do get to see, I think they're going to retread a couple of things from this one because they did it in the mini-series where, this is one of the things I actually respected when they did the first It movie, that it focused on them as kids. The whole movie was focused on them as kids. This new one, it looks like it's going to do a little bit of flashbacks to them as kids, but not a whole lot. I feel like mostly it's going to solely focus on them as adults, which is fine because I feel like that was one of the problems with the miniseries, that I kept kind of flashing back and forth to past and present day. And I know that's how the book works too. The book works like that too. It would focus on something that happened in the past and then what's happening now in the present day. I've never really been a fan of that kind of storytelling. I think if you can do it correctly, then it's perfectly fine. But sometimes it just feels like, okay, well, keep one thing at a time. Keep a track, a good linear, linear vibe when you're telling a story. I know there are some movies I'm a fan of that are non-linear storytelling, which is fine. But that was one of the things that always confused me about it. I think in a way is. Right. Yeah. Yeah, how they kept, flopping back and forth. Um, but I really think with It Chapter 2, there's not going to be too much of them going back to them as kids. There might be a couple little scenes here and there, maybe more flashback sequences of them remembering, like they showed in the first teaser when Beverly goes back to her home, or that she grew up in, and she finds the poem, and she just reminisces her first time reading that poem. Um, So it's one of those things where I feel like that's the only thing that they're going to show us them as kids, more of just like flashbacks of them remembering what Pennywise did, or remembering the clown. Um, yeah, that's how I feel they're going to go, unless there's going to be some more, like the whole scene with. I'm trying to remember in the original, there was a scene between the main lead and what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. But it's not important. But yeah, I really think there's going to be a whole lot of retreading, which I hope that they're just going to be like, okay, here's the beginning of this movie. Let's go into it. which might make some people upset who hadn't seen the first one. That's ridiculous, But those are my thoughts on the second It movie. I hope it's going to be good. I'll do a live stream or a quick video when the movie comes out and when I see it. And I'll do a video talking about my thoughts on the movie as a whole. I'm just right now kind of looking at the trailer and just coming up with some thoughts or coming up with some opinions of what I think is going to happen. I don't know, if that's the way the movie's going to go, because I had some thoughts about how Pet Sematary was going to go, and that it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, and it, yeah, my feelings on the Pet Sematary remake. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this live stream, and until then, I'll catch some of you guys later.